So it's a good mix of presentations because I think we're all coming from a bit of different perspectives. And the perspective I'm coming from is I'm going to talk about a project and a close collaboration that we at Nesta have had with BIRAC and DBT. And it's impossible to avoid some overlap because obviously we've had very similar experiences. I just also want to mention, I know there's a lot of people in the room with a huge amount of this experience, of this collaboration experience. So I'm a bit humble as I move forward. Just to mention what is Nesta for those that don't know. So we are an innovation foundation. So we were part of government until here in the UK until 2012. Now we are an independent foundation with a significant endowment. And basically what we do is we try to see how innovation can be put to the service of communities and society. So, and you'll see that I'm actually in what's called the Challenge Prize Center. And maybe you've heard of X Prize in terms of challenge prizes. Again, what's difference between the X Prize and the Challenge Prize Center at Nesta? Basically, all the projects we take on have a social objective. So I'll just give you an example of two before I move into the Longitude Prize. One is we just did a project called Flying High, which was funded by the UK government, and we did it in partnership with several cities. So when you think of drones, it's an innovation. It has commercial applications, but if you think about it, what we hear the most about is drones being used for commercial purposes. But what about at the city level, the infrastructure, and how can towns, cities, governments use drones, whether it be here in the UK or in developing countries. And so that's what that project was about. I think it gives you some idea. And then something else in health is we're looking at how technology can be used to help individual people manage their own chronic illnesses. And so in a very practical sense, we call that people-centered health. One of the things that we do is we have mechanisms to bring people together and share experiences. So let's now move directly to the Longitude Prize and also the collaboration with India. So as most of you know, Longitude Prize is a £10 million competition, and the idea is to incentivize rapid diagnostic tests that will be transformative, rapid, accurate, and affordable, and it must be point of care. And so we're a bit humble in the sense that we know that the winner, there's only going to be one winner, and the payout to the one winner is £8 million. So we know that there's not one answer, but I think a success that we feel like we've had already is we're focusing inventors on a very specific challenge. And that challenge means, as we've discussed already at this meeting, a point of care is not going to be useful or interesting unless it's practical to use and affordable. So I think when you look at this, it's a testament to the fact that our collaboration with BIRAC and DBT is a huge success. Because today we have 81 teams in 14 countries around the world competing to develop a point-of-care rapid test. And you can see from this map, or it's an overview, is that actually 21 out of the 81 teams are based in India. And that's not by mistake. That's because of a successful collaboration. So one thing I'd like to mention is that part of the collaboration has been, since the beginning of the Longitude Prize, which was launched in 2014, we've given actually 32 grants. So 29 of those have been £25,000. And then 3, which were given in December, by DBT and BIRAC were for about £100,000 each. And 18 of the 32 grants have gone to Indian-based teams. And that's because, we just heard in the last presentation, the resources that the Indian government has allocated in terms of grants has been more than any other around the world. So just to talk a big picture of the economics, so basically the 8 million payout, 5 million of it has been put up by Innovate UK, and 3 million of it has been put up by the Nesta endowment. And Nesta is paying the running costs, which is quite substantial for all the activities of my team and all the support that we give teams. So the Indian involvement has been huge, and it's been a long-standing partnership between BIRAC, which sits in the Department of Biotechnology, and Nesta. But I think what makes this quite unique, I don't know how much people know about BIRAC, but their mission is a bit different what we've talked about so far in this session. Because here, the mission is actually to help companies. So it's not a wider research objective, but it's how can the Indian government support the growth of startups and small and medium-sized enterprises in medtech and other technologies. So for example, some of their support includes environmental products, but 60% of their work is for medical technologies. And I think the thing that's unique is on the one level, BIRAC supports incubators around India, and that's where a lot of the 21 competitors of the Longitude Prize sit. And then on the other hand, there's direct grants that BIRAC gives to through competitions and different schemes. And I think I'd also like to mention that the Foreign and Commonwealth Office has been a close collaborator on this project as well, mostly bringing financing people from the UK with certain expertise to come to India. So what are the success factors? I guess some of these are the same and some of them are a little bit different. I think one thing that I don't think anybody's mentioned so far, although I know it's important to the other projects, is high-level support. So at the highest level, the project has support, and it's because Nesta and BIRAC and DBT have mutual objectives. And we really feel those and we live them. And I think that's why we keep coming up with new steps and new elements of this program. And I think keeping high profile events really helps as well. So we look at what we can do in the media, what we can do public. We just had an event for what we called Boost Grants. We had a 3-day accelerator with IIT Bombay. And part of that was there were journalists that came in, interviewed teams, and so we got the word out. And as you might know, the Longitude Prize is a very open competition, so there are new teams that can come in at any point until somebody wins. So that's why it's important to keep the profile high. And then challenges. Competing priorities. I mean, it's easy for us for the Longitude Prize because we're very focused on this one project. But BIRAC has a lot of different grant schemes and projects, and they're very highly motivated staff. And they're somehow, because of strong personal relationships, as we've heard before, we make it work because they find time. And we go regularly. We don't send people for months at a time, but we go a few times a year, and I think that's been really, really critical. And a challenge has been on both sides, both in the UK, at the incubator level, at the different centers, and at BIRAC. Just about all the personnel has changed. And we've managed to keep it going because we have enough people involved who can play the relay. And I think sharing critical information is really, really a challenge. In other words, if we're having different teams that are competing, some of them are getting money from other BIRAC schemes and maybe Longitude schemes, it's really important that we share information and find a way, in terms of the judging process as well, the panels are joint. So we have some people coming from the UK, and it goes in both directions. Our big panel for the major, the 8 million payout, has 2 Indian members, including Dr. Abdul, who was here yesterday. And we also have panels when we're in India that we bring UK people. So there's that kind of cross-pollination. And here's the last slide. It just shows, I think it's also important, we've kind of become, I think, a part of the bigger BIRAC ecosystem because they are bringing inventors and basically technology developers together on a regular basis. And we're learning a lot by participating in those types of events. Like, for example, their yearly Foundation Day, which happens in March. We participate in that. And then you can see on the, it says fighting superbugs. We did a film about superbugs in India, and it was super well received in the sense that it raised the profile of both the researchers that we're working with and medical people in India exclusively, as well as the inventors. And then you see one thing that we did for an international competition of Discovery Awards, which were the smaller events, smaller grants. It was at the Royal Society here in London. And that's nice exposure to give to young inventors in India. And I think they really appreciate it. It also did the same that Wellcome does or DBT does, having the stamp of Longitude. Made the projects more fundable. And I think that is, even though those initial grants were only £25,000, the fact that it kind of validated projects really made a difference. Thank you for your time.